Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to another speed build. Today we're going to be building a nightclub based after Big Hero 6. This is actually the first and currently only Big Hero 6 themed lot in the Disney save, and the only one that we're going to be doing for Evergreen Harbor. You might have noticed that we are getting towards the end of Evergreen Harbor, and I always intended to do this lot. Normally, I will do, more than one themed lot per movie, if I can fit it in a given world, and that's definitely been the standard up until this point. But we are going to split Big Hero 6 up a little bit. I can definitely see possibly doing a residential in San Myshuno, definitely playing with the idea of Brightchester and student housing and all of the college students there. And I also really wanted to have a warehouse build. This felt like a really good natural choice. So I will say I actually had never seen Big Hero 6 before I finally sat down to watch Big Hero 6. And I was pleasantly surprised. I actually was never interested in it. None of the promo got me, nothing. I was just never interested in really seeing it. But I knew Baymax was obviously a very popular character, and I knew for the Disney save, and I would say for future movies as well, anything I haven't seen by Disney, which is kind of few, but it still exists, especially some of the newer content I definitely am not super familiar with. I will watch it so that I can hopefully bring some aspect of it into the Disney save, and I was just so pleasantly surprised by Big Hero 6. I instantly fell in love with all of the characters. I literally loved them. I had no idea that the concept for the movie was kind of this superhero theme, and I liked it a lot. One of the scenes in the movie, Hero is taking his one single Microbot that he has left, and him and Baymax are kind of using it to track wherever it's trying to get him to go. He doesn't know it at the time, but he's actually using it to track his other Microbots because the technology was stolen from him and it's being reproduced without his knowledge. And it's actually being reproduced in this very building. So this is a recreation from the movie. This is the warehouse that Hero goes to where he finds that his technology is being cloned. When they first get to the warehouse, it's really beat up on the outside. You've got weeds coming through the cement, lots of broken windows, lots of glass. It's on the edge of town, shown in a port. There's actually a scene where Hero takes one of the Microbots and he's tracking them even further later on in the movie, and he almost walks straight into the water. It's on the edge of a harbor, just like this. You can literally see storage containers and big giant cranes in the background. It literally looks exactly like this. So I knew that this was going to be a really great spot for something like this, and it just fits so well. For a lot of the things that I've built in Evergreen Harbor so far, some of them do look a little bit out of place. And that's partially because I'm okay with that. And it's also okay because I feel like Evergreen Harbor is a really interesting world in that you can kind of do whatever you want with it. You can start to make it more clean. You can really up the eco footprint and make it really, really nice. Or you can keep it trashy, dirty, smoggy. So it's really up to you. And so half of the builds are these dirty, trashy, smoggy builds. And then half of them are super futuristic, clean cut, really cool. And then we also have a lot of residential. So it's a huge mix for this world. It's a lot of Pixar movies as well. And somebody had mentioned to me in one of my comments a few weeks ago that they noticed there is a difference in my build style when it comes to Pixar movies and when it comes to classically animated Disney movies. And that's definitely true. And you can see it in the building styles that I do if you pay close enough attention. It's super intentional. So out of all of the lots that I've built for Evergreen Harbor so far, I would say this is the one that looks like it absolutely fits into this world. This looks like something that should have maybe even originally been here if you got this game and the lots were super detailed. This might be the type of stuff that I would at least expect to see. I knew I wanted to recreate this warehouse, and I did toy with a few different ideas as far as what would we actually do with it. At one point, I did consider making this a residential for the villain character of the movie, who I believe goes by Yokai. I looked it up the other day, and I believe that that's what his name is. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. However, At the last moment, somebody had recommended to me that I maybe do something else. Like, I had maybe done like a community, what do they call them? The new community lot that they have that changes. I can't even remember what they're called, you guys. And although I really liked that idea, and I think that the idea that they had specifically given me would probably work really well for a future build, I just felt like I couldn't miss the opportunity to make this into like an underground nightclub. So this is very much like your abandoned warehouse, former factory, has a lot of the original integrity of that factory, the piping, the vents, the fans, all sorts of stuff still intact, but then people have decorated around it and really made it into this super cool nightclub that's very industrial and would be like, I feel like really fun. Like, it's almost like a nightclub that obviously anybody can go here. Like, you can't really do anything in The Sims that would stop certain people or certain occults from going to certain lots. And I only say that because I can't picture really like high-ranking celebrities maybe enjoying like the ambiance of this type of a place. However, if you could control that stuff a little bit more, I feel like this is exactly the type of place like a club hangout would be really cool here. We could even possibly do that in the future with like a different club or something, but this really screams like private, large gathering. Like, somebody knows of this building and like all the local teens get together and they use it as a nightclub, and like the adults of the town don't really know about it. Not super specific like that, because like I said, you can't really determine that kind of stuff, especially if I'm going to keep it a nightclub for like the general public. But that's definitely what I picture. It strikes me as like the type of building that a group of teens would be walking around on the edge of the port one day, and they would see this and they would just be like, wow, nobody's going to come here literally ever. This place has been abandoned for a long time, and we can use this as our own like little personal hangout. So you wouldn't really remove like a lot of the original integrity, because you can't. A lot of stuff is like built in, like you've got the piping and the vents and stuff, that all that kind of stuff would stay. However, you could obviously build around it. Now, obviously it would be really cool and simple to just build this and do it as a recreation from the movie and use like the exterior reference and make it as close as possible. But I did want to go a few steps further and really bring in some ideas from the scenes where Hero is at this factory to the build. So if you remember in the movie, if you haven't seen Big Hero 6, I will try and jog your memory. Or if you haven't seen it, I do recommend that you go check it out. There is a moment where he comes around a corner and he sees like this big blue glowing square, and in the square is like a couple of machines that are actually working on his microbots. They are like replicating and working on them and putting them in a bunch of barrels on like this conveyor belt. And then when he actually walks up to it, you can see in the background that there are just like hundreds of barrels of all of his microbots behind. But I thought it would be really cool if we recreated like that blue cube that is more of like the machine area in the factory originally, and do it as the bar in like the center of the room. Super futuristic kind of looking in the way that I feel like the movie kind of is, and also Baymax as a character. Like, I did think of Baymax a lot when doing this build, trying to come up with like, how can I integrate the idea of Big Hero 6 and Baymax specifically into this build. So it's a mesh between like the original industrialness of the factory, and then also bringing some of that like really high-tech futuristic element of the movie. We've got this really cool bar in the middle of the room that I wanted to get just right, but I have to translate over to make it usable for the purposes of this nightclub. So in the movie, it's almost like a bunch of tarps that are like kind of transparent, and they're hung around in a big square, and then there's machines working on the inside. And Hero walks up to it and can sort of see through it. However, if I cluttered this up with like a bunch of random machines, they would really just get in the way of the actual process of just getting up to the bar and getting a drink. So instead, I felt like it would be cool to just keep the original design of it and do something like interesting with some half walls and some blue tinted windows, and then keep the bar right up against it. So the person who is tending the bar can kind of get around the back, and that's their work area. And then there would just be this long, really cool bar in front of and all the way around the cube that I was really excited to basically take up a large portion of this space. One thing I do want to mention, I didn't get to talk about it a moment ago, but I did get to use some really cool eco-lifestyle stuff from the debug category. and that is like the scaffolding that is like this really awesome item or set of items that I was excited to get when we originally got this pack. I had seen somebody going through the debug and noticed the scaffolding and was just like super excited that that was even in there, because essentially I knew that that meant I would be able to use it in a build like this. But also, one of my biggest pet peeves currently about The Sims, and I don't really talk about this too much because there's just no point, but I feel like a lot of the type of essence and the feeling that I try to portray in a build can sometimes be broken if you notice that all of the ceilings are white all the time. So, like, for example, when I did Gaston's pub, that if you look like straight up to the ceilings, you can see that all of them are white. And in real life, it would be like really wooden, really rustic looking, really like detailed, and I probably would have done a lot more with it. But everything in the whole build is like super themed and looks really nice. And then when you go into that first person perspective, you can really like look up at the ceilings and it doesn't match at all. However, for this and the addition of the scaffolding, I could at least take a section of this factory and really make it super interesting looking, so you have these very, very industrial vibes right from the get-go when you first walk in. So I definitely wanted to use those. They didn't fit really well into the area that I was trying to use them, but I was so determined to make sure that they work. So you can't go up there, obviously. Your Sims cannot walk on them, and I will maybe at some point later on toy with the idea of trying to get those to work in a more functional type of way. But for now, I just really like the look that gives it. And it meant that I also didn't have to decorate the upstairs, which is super cool for me, because this is, I think, our third nightclub of the save. I've done Other Side, which was a nightclub themed after Dr. Facilier from Princess and the Frog. And then I did the Devil's Bayou, and that was a fixer-upper sort of steamboat celebrity nightclub. So they're all very different from one another, but this is my third one, and they've all been 2 levels so far, and that can get a little bit repetitive as far as like decor and what do you put in a nightclub, like what is there to even do there. I was thinking it would probably be a little bit more beneficial to me to just keep this 1 level kind of simple. However, there is one really interesting element to this build that I have sort of kept a surprise even from my patrons. I don't want to hype you guys up too much. It's not like some crazy thing. But when I was building this, I had the idea to do something with the vent system. So again, in the movie, there's a scene where Hero jumps down into one of the vents and starts crawling around. He's trying to get away from the swarms of microbots that are coming after him and Baymax are like running through this vent system or crawling through it. And I was like, wouldn't it be so cool if I could actually bring the vent system in one way or another to the build and make it like this underground tunnel system, which in and of itself like isn't really all that special, and it's not even super useful necessarily, because I knew I wasn't going to put a ton of stuff down there. But I felt like maybe instead of doing like your traditional vent system, we could do something a little bit different and have it be really Big Hero 6 themed. So any moment I will actually be able to show you guys what I'm talking about a little bit better. But there is a basement floor to this place, and it's really cool. It's just like this big room that basically it's a vent system that spells out BH6. And I decided to put a couple of cloning machines down there, which cloning machine, news to me as far as like that being in The Sims. I had no idea. Out of a whim, I literally just typed into the bar clone just to see what would happen, because I was thinking about how his microbots are sort of being cloned, and it turns out there is an entire machine, probably from the scientist career, and I decided, wouldn't that be really cool if we just put a couple of random cloning machines that most people will not be able to use because they're not going to be high enough in the scientist career downstairs. And then if you do get high enough in the scientist career, or if you know that it's there, you can come and use it. So it's like a little secret of the Disney save that I'm definitely telling all of you, and everybody who watches this video will 100% know about, and therefore it's not much of a secret. But I figure for those of you there's always going to be people that have no idea, are not going to watch all of my speed builds, or haven't even made it this far in the video and are just going to go to the gallery and download the slot. And it's a cool little Easter egg. So it's not a huge part of the build. It's literally just like a vent system with nothing in it. So we didn't put a whole ton down there. There's not a whole lot to show you, but you guys are going to get a couple shots of it in a moment here and in the screenshots at the end of the video. And I think for the rest of the build, I really just wanted to decorate with lots of different wall pieces, a lot of neon signs. Those giant storage containers are from Eco Lifestyle as debug items, sized down once. The sign for this place, there isn't really like an exterior sign letting you know that it's a nightclub, because I did think of this as more of like an underground, unmarked kind of nightclub. But when you walk in, you have the giant llama sign, and that is from Get Famous. And it's from one of like the superhero sets, which again kind of ties in with the idea. I don't know if we're going to use that as like the Big Hero 6 superhero sign for the purposes of my save, but I figure we will, considering it's one of the very few that we have. So that is there at like the back. I also did put the DJ station back there. I put like a dedicated DJ booth, the actual like turntable machine, instead of doing like a classic DJ station. And again, I think that that ties into the idea that this is more like homegrown, and you would come in and somebody would almost have to play as the DJ. So you do have to come here and like hire the DJ. The other two things that I really wanted to do is, we're going to touch on this idea later, definitely, for any Big Hero 6 related build, but one of the places that the fake places of the movie that most of the movie takes place in, I believe it's called San Frantokyo or San Fransokyo. I'm definitely butchering that, and I had it in my head, but now that I'm saying it out loud, it's just, I don't even know what I'm saying. I will put it on screen here, and it is a combination or a play on words of San Francisco and Tokyo, which is like the futuristic world combination sort of place that the movie takes place in. I hope that made sense. And they have like this really cool architecture style, because a lot of the streets themselves look like San Francisco, which is really interesting architecturally, and a lot of buildings are very close together. They're known for townhouses. They're known for like a very specific type of architecture. And then you've got a lot of like Japanese style decor, and also like Japanese style elements as far as like street vibes go, with a lot of different things. So in the background of the movie, you'll see like a lot of paper lanterns, signs that look or appear to be written in some sort of Japanese, or a combination of like a fake English Japanese language that, I don't know, the movie or the people, the creators of the movie actually came up with. So we're gonna do some paper lanterns in here. We're gonna do some neon signs, and just signs in general that looked to me to be like more of Japanese reference, although obviously everything in the game is done in Simlish and is made to be like non-categorically for any language. That's like kind of their intention. But I would say generally there are quite a few things in the game that look like they are sort of leaning towards one culture or another, even if the game tries to keep it a little bit neutral. And even with some of like the newer the newer updates to the game, the Sims team has been getting better about including other cultures, which we definitely need more of, and I could certainly use in the Disney save for a lot of up and coming future things, because Disney itself does play on a lot of cultures and references to like a lot of different cultures. So I definitely could use a lot of that stuff, and I felt like we would probably try to bring some of those vibes into this build, interior-wise as well. But again, we'll play with that idea more when I do, like, more future builds. I believe Hiro's aunt in the movie uses, or has her own restaurant, and they live above it, and I would really like to recreate that. Again, I cannot remember what that one is called. I only watched this movie once before I did this build, which is kind of where a lot of my gaps in memory are definitely coming from. I definitely am not having a ton of time recently to be able to watch movies, and even a lot of you have recommended, like, I'll get little comments here and there that are like, oh, I hope this movie's included, and if it's more of an obscure movie or like a newer one, I'm kind of like, ooh, I don't know anything about that movie, and I have a mental list and also a paper list of things that I need to do, including like go watch this movie, that movie, but I'm just not getting to it. I don't have a ton of time considering everything that I'm sort of taking on right now. And again, I know I do want to take a moment to say that I know sometimes my schedule when it comes to releasing Disney save builds is a little bit scattered, and I don't always have a very consistent one. Some weeks I will put out 4 or 5 videos. Some weeks you will get 1 video. It usually depends on the length of time that I'm spending on a build, or a lot of things, a lot of external things. I could sit here and name off like the 100 things that I do on a daily basis just for the Disney save alone that I think a lot of people don't realize I'm working on in the background. But I won't, because it's kind of boring and definitely nobody cares. But I'm just trying my absolute best, you guys, and I wish I could give more of a concrete schedule. I really wish I could be like, we'll do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but odds are I'm going to disappoint. And some weeks we are just going to have to put more time into a build or a create a sim or a backstory. And I don't want to feel like I have to put a video out, because then you guys are going to start getting some really not so cool Disney save stuff. And I really just want everything to be to the best of my ability and super good. And something I can be proud of, and something I feel like a lot of you will really enjoy. Even when I get comments here and there that are like, I really hate how you did this and this and this, that's fine, but I'm proud of it. And I definitely just want to make sure that I'm releasing things that I am happy with. So kind of an apology, kind of an explanation, and I hope you guys understand at the end of the day. The very final thing that I wanted to do in this build, it's kind of dumb, and there's really no use for it, other than maybe one tiny little thing. I wanted there to be an area where your Sims could potentially nap and or woohoo, which I always find to be a really fun element of a nightclub. But I thought it would be fun if instead of just having a bedroom here or some random room with an old bed in it, they would have to go through the vent system to get there. So the vent system access point is actually in the bathroom. You go down a ladder and then you go all the way through the vent system to get to the opposite side of the factory. And that is the only entrance way into that one bedroom with the single kind of nasty eco lifestyle bed that you can woohoo on if you're interested to do so at the nightclub. Just something extra here that you could do on the lot, I suppose. Oh, also, just so you guys know, there is kind of a gate over the door that has a lock over the front of it. That was shown in the movie. Literally, Hero picks up the lock and looks at it, and it flops back down and smacks the door. So I was really excited to find something very similar when I was in debug mode. But important to note, or I guess it's for show hidden objects mode, those objects, your Sims actually can't register that they are there. So your Sims will walk right through them. So don't worry that that is over the front of the door. Your Sims literally just walk right through it. Kind of jarring, but also kind of love it because it means that I can actually include it. And yeah, that is going to be the end of today's speed build. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know what you thought of it down in the comment section below. Are you excited for more Big Hero 6? Let me know what else you guys would like to see. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you would like to support the Disney Save on Patreon, you can do so by clicking the link in my description box down below, or the link at the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Hit that little bell icon below to turn on post notifications so you can get updated every single time I post, and I will talk to you all in the next one.